Good Monday morning. It's February 10th, and my name is Drew Wright. I work for First Heritage Mortgage, and my MLS ID number is 579370. Hope you're having a good day. Every Monday, we come talk to you about mortgage financing, maybe a little bit about rates. We attach a PDF to this email, and you can read our PDF, and you can also see the rate sheet in a PDF. We also would love you to subscribe. This is Alex Wright's YouTube channel. And it would be interesting to see how many subscribers we get from the Outer Banks. Be good to support our local area and economy. Today I've got a whiteboard here. This is sort of, Alex is telling me I need to get a whiteboard, and so I'm following his advice. He's got a better one back in Carolina, but today I'm in Florida, and I had to make do with what I could find locally. I wanted to talk about debt ratios today because Alex last week in his commentary talked about affordability and how you can buy a house and what it takes to qualify. He used an example of a gentleman who was making about $20,000 a month. That's $240,000 a year. I don't know if you can see this or not. I hope you can. That number represents, that's a good amount of income. I mean, but you'd be surprised what people do make today. And how inflation is everywhere. But basically, we look at debt. I want to talk about debt ratios and how we qualify people in the sense that what is the maximum payment that somebody can have, whether they make $20,000, $240,000 a year, or whether they make $10,000, $120,000 a year, which might be something that we see a little bit more often when it comes to a primary residence buyer on the Outer Banks. And basically, we want debt ratios. They're really sort of a couple of different tiers. If you're buying a primary residence and you want to put 5% more down, you can have a 50% debt ratio. That means that you can have, in this case, $10,000 a month in debt, okay? Now we use the gross number, as Alex said last week, all right? We don't worry about tax insurance and mortgage financing or what you might contribute to your 401k. I know if you make 20, you may only bring home about $14,000, paying $6,000 in taxes and maybe contributing a little bit to your retirement. So you really have $14,000, but we will let you have a debt ratio of 50% or $10,000 in total debt. Most people are going to come to us with a car payment or some amount of other debt. And if they're buying a second home, they'll have a house payment and this property that they want to buy if they're buying a second home or an investment property. That can make it a little bit more challenging, and why we sometimes like using bigger numbers, because second home buyers, generally speaking, do have higher incomes. So anyway, 50% is this number. This is 50%. And this is the number we use for people that, again, want to put 5% down or as a primary residence, or are looking to buy and qualify traditionally, meaning we're using traditional documentation like income, tax returns, pay stubs, and W-2s to buy a second home. If you buy an investment property, by the way, we can create income from the investment property, increase that number to offset the payment, okay? So it's not so about income though, it's about ratios. So whatever your income is, half of it, if it's $8,000 a month, that's $96,000 a year. $4,000 a month can be debt. It includes your mortgage payment. So if you come to us with a $500 car payment, you got a $4,000 allowance on $8,000 a month, you're now qualifying for a mortgage payment that's $3,500. That's still a pretty good sized mortgage payment. I'd be happy to get people that make $96,000 a year into a house. It's not that hard to do. Where it gets hard is where your income probably gets under about 60. Because when you're making 60, you're making $5,000 a month, and your maximum payments are $2,500 a month. And when you got to throw tax insurance in there, it gets really hard to keep that 50% debt ratio, especially if you have a car payment, and that's going to sort of knock a lot of people out. But if you're a first-time home buyer, your debt ratios are more conservative because first-time home buyers can find programs with 3% down, and there's USDA where you can finance 100%. And so in those cases, there's really not a lot of equity. If 5% down doesn't sound like a lot, but if you do FHA or USDA, which is 100% financing, you really have less than 2% equity in the property after closing. Part of that's because FHA loans have a funding fee and it's financed in the loan amount. So the FHA, first-time home buyers, their debt ratios are allowed to be no higher than 43%. Okay, that's as high as we want it to be. And of course, most first-time home buyers are going to be making somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 a month, $60,000 to $72,000. That's sort of like right this minute, especially with where rates are and prices are on houses, sort of like the minimum income you almost need to make right this minute to probably buy a house. And again, these loans have almost no equity, 100% financing with USDA. So that's one reason to have the debt ratio higher, lower than at 50%, 43%. And also, if you do the FHA loan, while you're required to put 3.5% down, they put the funding fee in there, which is 1.75% of your loan amount, reducing your equity because it's financed. Now, these numbers might sound high. And we don't want consumers to think that we're just trying to talk them into buying a house and they're not going to be able to afford it. But one, if you're buying a primary residence, let's hope that your income is going up over time. Most of the time, people buying houses are optimistic. So if your income is going up, your debt ratio is going down over time. Okay? So, if you made $65,000 this year and next year you're going to make $75,000, it's going to feel a lot better. It's $10,000 more dollars. You're going to be able to afford this house over time even more. That's the beauty of 30-year fixed rates. We should be happy we have 30-year fixed rates because not every country in the world is like America and gets to finance their mortgage for 30-year fixed rates. Most countries do not offer 30-year fixed rates. Also, if you're buying a second home and you think, well, golly, how can I buy a second home if I already have a house and my house payment already, let's say your house payment already is $3,500 a month, okay? All right, on the house that you live in, you're gonna buy another house and it's gonna be $4,000 a month. I see this a lot, $4,000 a month, more than their primary residence at the beach. And so those payments are $7,500 and they make $10,000 a month. That's a 75% debt ratio. You don't qualify as a second home. And how do you get to buy a house as an investment property? Well, if you buy an investment property that costs, say $500,000, okay, I'm running out of room here, then you will need to use the rental income from that property. And hopefully this property would have rental income of about $40,000. So we'd use that $40,000, divide that by 12, that's about $3,800 a month that you're going to get in rental income. We're going to use the expenses that property has, which is to say it's about half of that number, which makes it $1,600 a month. And we're going to take that payment here and we're going to say subtract $1,600 from it. That would be $2,400 a month, right? $2,400 a month. So now you have two payments that combined get you very close to this 50% debt ratio that you want. This math did not totally work out, but I was just winging it here to speak. But you want that. If you had the rental income to get there, you would be able to afford to buy this as an investment property. If you're an investor, there's always things to be options to get into a property. These DSCR loans and other programs like that are really good at helping people buy houses who may not qualify any other way. They're using the rents from the property solely as a qualifier and really not their income. That really is another whole topic. I'm at about a 10-minute limit. I try to keep these relatively short. I hope you enjoyed this week's commentary. I hope you can like our YouTube page and find the handouts in the email helpful to share with other folks or just share the link in this video. Thanks a lot. Have a great week and call us anytime if you got questions.